Hi, welcome to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, business and mindset coach, mom, and your no BS guide to breaking through the stories holding you back. This podcast is your space to get real, get inspired, and get moving. Each week, I'll share the mindset shifts, strategies, and stories that have helped me and my clients build lives and businesses that feel as good as they look. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, you're in the right place. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to Living Your Limitless Life. I am Kayleigh Kennedy, and today I'm going to share a personal story with you about how mindset has really shaped my life and changed so much for me. A little bit more about me. I've been on this journey since 2019, and one of the reasons why I started in mindset was because I was just really tired. I knew I was meant for more. I didn't know what that more looked like. I was working a corporate 9 to 5. I was pregnant with my first. I had just started. Actually, no, I'd been in network marketing for a couple years. Nothing had really happened with my business. I was kind of sick of being on the hamster wheel with this feeling that I knew I was meant for more. And I don't know how many of you listening have had that feeling or experienced that feeling. It is so normal. What I found is most people suppress that and just continue to settle for where they're at instead of exploring what that more could look like. So I was very tired of settling, and I decided to explore what that more looked like. 3 months before I was due to go on maternity leave with my son, I actually made an investment in myself and hired a mindset coach. And that decision, as scary as it was at the time, is the reason why I'm here talking to you today. It's the reason why I have become a business and mindset coach. And that one decision continues to change and transform my life over and over and over again. I spent a lot of my life going from one thing to another. Nothing really clicked because I didn't really set goals, to be perfectly honest. And I'll have further episodes later where I'm talking about goal setting. Never really understood my purpose. And that's what the mindset work started to do for me. It started to help me understand my purpose. It helped me shift the way I saw myself, the way I perceived myself, helped me build confidence, helped me release depression and anxiety that I'd held on for years, helped me change stories that I'd been holding on for years. There's so many ways that it impacted me. But that wasn't the biggest way that mindset work and what I'm going to be talking to you week in and week out about on this podcast impact that the mindset work had for me was when my son was diagnosed with cancer. My son was 2, my daughter was 6 months old. August 16th, 2022, we heard the words that no parent ever wants to hear. Your son has cancer. I remember sitting in that room, hearing the diagnosis. He was diagnosed with a higher risk form of leukemia. A few months prior to his 3rd birthday. 3 years almost to the day of when I made my first investment in myself and started working on mindset. My mindset journey helped me start dreaming bigger and helped me start seeing myself in a new way and in a new light. And my purpose became to help people get out of their own way and help people shift their own perception. I see so many people who were very much like I was prior to this work, settling, struggling, allowing external circumstances to dictate everything that they feel they can and can't do, seeing people just kind of succumb to circumstances, basically just seeing so many people give their power away. And I feel like that's what many of us do day in and day out is we just give our power away to everything outside of ourselves instead of going inward and taking our power back. So I knew that I was meant to impact people with this work. The way that this work had profoundly impacted my life. That continues to be my purpose today, to impact so many people. But what I didn't realize was that all of the work that I'd been doing for 3 years, it actually prepared me for impact. It prepared me for the impact. Hearing those words, Your son has cancer. My daughter was 6 months old at the time. I'd been coaching for about 18 months. It was 18 months since I started my own business. At that point, I'd been working for a coach for just under a year at that time, and my life had really changed. My results had really changed. I remember sitting in that hospital bed, having just heard the news, having just heard all of the details, and locking on to only the positive. I don't remember how long it was after we heard the news, looking to my husband and our conversation started turning to all of the things we had to be grateful for in that moment. Because the truth is, when you look for gratitude, no matter what you're experiencing, when you look for it, you will find it. And it's very easy when you hear news like that to be able to be pulled into darkness. I was never angry because I had understood, I had learned, and I started to understand that nothing is happening to me, everything is happening for me. So this wasn't happening to us, this was happening for us. And I was able to shift my perspective in that moment and realize that this was going to make us stronger. This was going to bring us closer together. This was going to make my son stronger. This was going to make my daughter stronger. This was going to bring my husband and I closer together. Like these are the things that I was thinking. Yes, there was fear. Absolutely, there was fear. My heart broke. In that moment, my heart broke. But being able to shift to gratitude, being able to stay away from anger, being able to change my thinking pattern in its tracks when I started to go into fear and shift to faith, those are all gifts that I had to learn. I had to learn how to use those gifts. That's what the mindset work did for me, was allowed me to be able to create my own reality within the news that I had just been exposed to. I was able to create faith. I was able to create strength, gratitude from a moment that years prior would not have been what I would have created in that time. I would have been angry. I would have blamed. I would have succumbed to the fear. I would have stayed there. I would have probably lived at the bottom of a rabbit hole. And I remember speaking on a podcast while he was in treatment, and the host had asked me, "Well, what do you do when you go down the rabbit hole?" Because it's when you experience a cancer diagnosis, especially your child's, it can be easy to go down that rabbit hole. And I still find we overanalyze every bruise. Those were some of the symptoms that he had experienced, which had brought us to bringing him into our local hospital and started this journey. But what I'm able to do is, as soon as I start to go down the rabbit hole, and I visualize the rabbit hole being like a sewer. You know, you're climbing down a ladder into this darkness, and the further you get down the ladder, the harder it is to pull yourself back up because you're tired, because it's a long ladder. And what the mindset work allows me to do is catch myself on the way down and be able to climb back up by changing the way I think. By changing the thoughts I'm allowing myself to think. Because the truth is, we have a conscious and we have a subconscious mind, and our conscious mind is the mind that gives us the ability to think, and our subconscious mind is our emotional mind. And when you go down the rabbit hole, you move from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. And what mindset work allowed me to do was catch myself on the way down and climb back up so that I didn't stay in the negative energy. I didn't stay in the rabbit hole. I used to live in the rabbit hole. Okay. I spent most of my life living at the bottom of my rabbit hole. And in the most challenging moments of my life, because of mindset work, I was able to pull myself back up. And because I was able to do that for myself, I was able to do that for my family, and most importantly, my son. My son was diagnosed with a higher risk form of leukemia on August 16th, 2022, and on September 1st of 2024, he took his last dose of chemotherapy, and on September 9th of 2024, he rang the end of treatment bell. So 24 and a half months of daily chemotherapy, of watching our son fight for his life and supporting him, and continuing to live in gratitude and continuing to build my faith and continuing to process and continuing to serve my family, my community, my clients, myself during that time. That is not what it would have looked like if I hadn't been doing the inner work. I used all of the tools that are in my mindset tool belt, which I'm not going to get into this episode, so you have to come back for future episodes where I talk more about the toolbox. I used all of the tools, and I taught my son all of the tools as well. What we don't fix in ourselves, our children inherit. They listen, they observe. So in our practicing gratitude, my husband and I, and bringing that energy into our home, I was able to see my son, who was very young at the time, start to develop that attitude. Every time we took him to the hospital, we were always complimented on his attitude, his patience, and his grace. And he continues to be my biggest inspiration, but especially at that time, he was a constant reminder that we can do hard things, and we can do hard things in a certain way, with grace and calmness and kindness. It was not an easy journey. I'm very grateful to say that he did end up going into an earlier remission. The chemo did exactly what it was meant to do for him, but he got really sick with everything other than cancer. Uh, so we spent over 100 nights in the hospital during that 24-month period of time, especially during that first year. Even the latter half of that year, he, about a year after he was diagnosed, he started getting a pneumonia. And within a 6-7 month period of time, he had pneumonia 6 times. So each time he was sick, we were admitted to the hospital. We spent a lot of time there. And what I was able to do with all of the time that we spent in the hospital was shift my perspective of even being there. Yes, it was hard, and yes, it was every time we went, and every time, he was sick again, my heart broke again, of course. But I was able to change even my perception of being there. And, with a young daughter, 6 months old at the time of his diagnosis, so very much newborn, the time that Ethan and I got to spend in the hospital together was our time. So we made it special. So the energy already was different when we went. It wasn't fear, it was, this is our time, we can cuddle together, because we typically were isolated in a hospital room, and he was hooked up to many cords and IVs and all of the things. But we were able to just spend quality time together and, not just always be worried, but always be able to look for the positives. And that's a gift. That's a gift. When I first started my mindset journey, I remember hearing a quote by someone named Michael Beckwith. And this quote goes something like this: "It is what it is. Harvest the good, forget the rest." And that quote profoundly changed my life, but especially during this time when we were going through my son's cancer journey. It is what it is. No amount of anger or fear or negative emotions could change the fact that this was the news that we got that day. And this was our journey, and this was going to be our life, our temporary normal. And I often said this is our temporary normal. Every phase of this is a temporary normal. We don't have to normalize it, but we know it's not going to last. And it allowed me to continue to find the gratitude in each and every moment, as challenging as those moments were. And they were challenging. My son and I would say affirmations, every night before we went to bed. I'd repeat affirmations of health to him, reminding him that he's strong and brave and so loved. And it's so interesting because as I watched him go through the journey, I could see those affirmations in his attitude and how he showed up every single day, no matter what he was physically going through. That's the power of words. That's the power of mindset. My definition of mindset is you have a set way of thinking, you have a set way of reacting or responding to the world around you, and reacting and responding to yourself in relation to the world around you. You have a default setting. So your mind is set. Whether you like it or not, you have these habitual ways of being. And for me, mindset work is about changing those habitual ways of being by using the tools. So I used the tools with my son and saw him show up in the energy of the words that we spoke to one another. I saw his strength, I saw his bravery, I saw his patience, I saw his calmness, I saw his kindness. Every single day, no matter what he was going through. We all have that power. We all have that power to choose our attitude and choose faith over fear. It's a choice. I remember the first time my mentor told me that faith and fear are both choices, and we get to choose that choice every day. I didn't know fear was a choice. I thought it was just instilled upon me. At the time of my son's diagnosis, my mentor said something to me that I've never forgotten. He said, I want you to remember to feel all of the feelings, meaning don't suppress anything. Meaning, if you're sad or scared, like let that out, don't hold it in. And he said, never lose faith. So I locked on to every single positive outcome and only positive outcome. Now I've been asked, okay, so you do that, but then what if that's not the outcome? Well, why would I think that until that is my reality? We have a choice. We get to choose what we think. No matter what our reality is, we get to choose what we think. So why would I ever choose to think that we wouldn't have the outcome that we had? Just like I would never choose to think that my son was going to get diagnosed with cancer, but then he did. And then I dealt with it. I got to choose how I showed up. I got to choose how I wanted to respond. And I didn't always respond. I often reacted, but I got to choose. We all get to choose. So nobody chooses to receive bad news. But when it happens, we just learn how to harvest the good and forget the rest. So what if you just chose to focus on faith? What if I just chose to focus on the positive results and didn't accept anything else to be true in my mind? We have that power. That's the power of our imagination. Most people use their imagination against them. Well, what if you started to use your imagination for you? I used my imagination for my family during this time, and I used to just visualize Ethan going through this, like it was like walking through this, magical waterfall, and the water just cleaned his blood, cleaned the cancer out. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, not the waterfall, everything that we were doing cleaned it out. He went into remission, and yes, it was so challenging, and yes, he got so sick, and yes, we're still dealing with some things and specialist appointments just to make sure that he's okay and continues to get stronger and healthier the further we get away from from his last chemo dose. This experience also reminded me of what's really important in life. And I think we forget that from time to time. I was reminded of what truly matters. Now, when it comes to building my business during this time, because I was self-employed, my husband was off work, actually on paternity leave, taking care of our daughter, being the primary caregiver to our daughter. It didn't always look the way that I had decided it to look. My old programming pulled me back into a kind of work first mentality, which things personally kind of crumbled before they got better for me. And that's okay because that's part of my journey. But after I reprioritized what really mattered, my business grew. I started to learn how to be more intentional with my time, more focused. I started really putting my family first and scheduling my work around my values instead of the other way around, which is kind of how we're taught to do things. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to inspire you what is possible. Because between 2022 and 2023, the two most challenging years of my life, my daughter Zoe was born in February of 2022. So the year started off, with a new baby. And by August, my son was diagnosed with cancer. And the rest of 2022 and 2023 was so challenging with navigating that. I was still able to build a six-figure business and sell almost $1.4 million worth of coaching, worth of high ticket sales, working with the company that I used to work for before I left to start my own coaching and consulting business in the beginning of 2024. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I achieved those results by putting my family first and using my tools, using my mindset tools, using the work that I teach my clients now, the work that I've been working on for myself for years. And I got to achieve these results in a way that is still sustainable, in a way that I still get to put my family first, and a way that I'm very intentional with my time. Now, I'm a hard worker. Nobody would ever deny that. I love what I do, and there'll be more episodes talking about the idea of hard work versus aligned work. But when you work in alignment, and when you prioritize your values and you remember what's really important and you just focus on who you're becoming and shifting your beliefs and shifting your mindset, you can achieve things that you once thought were impossible. Because I once thought that what I had achieved during that time was impossible without having the challenges, the personal challenges that I was going through at that time. This is the power of this work. This is the power of what I'm going to be sharing with you on this podcast. Because my story is not unique. I hope it inspires you. I hope if you're listening to this episode and you've gone through a challenging time, that this can bring you some light, maybe change your perspective on certain things to help you find gratitude, to help you shift your mindset and shift your perspective so that you can experience things that might not be so pleasant, but in a more easy way. And easy is not the right word because there was nothing easy about watching my son go through cancer and us supporting him through cancer as a family. But you can move through challenges in a certain way when you work on your mindset. It's not easy, but it can feel more easeful because there are so many things that if I had done them differently, if this was my journey prior to mindset work, it would have been a lot harder. I would have made it a lot harder. I'm still healing. I'm still mending my broken heart. I'm still learning how to navigate what we did go through. I'm still learning how to process it and grow from it and heal and show up in the way that I desire to show up in the world as a mom, as an advocate, as a coach, as a woman. That journey is never going to end. And I'm able to find the gratitude in all of it. I'm able to turn my pain into purpose and have been able to raise awareness for so many of the different organizations that supported us during his journey and continue to support us. And I continue to speak and advocate and raise awareness. I have launched a scholarship program into my coaching for other entrepreneurs who've been impacted by cancer. I'm able to use my purpose for good and to make a bigger difference because of this experience. And that's a gift. And I see so many people who are able to turn their pain into purpose. And it really is a gift. It's not easy, but it's a gift. That's mindset. That's what this is. I am so grateful, beyond grateful, that we experienced the outcome we did experience. Our son is beautiful, strong, healthy, amazing, just an amazing boy. And our daughter is spirited and independent, and their bond is so amazing. And every day I get to choose how I want to show up as a mom, and how I want to show up as an individual, and how I want to show up as a coach. And I get to build a business around what really matters, and that's my children and my family. And when I first started this journey, when I first invested in my mindset, I was working a corporate 9 to 5, and I was miserable and depressed and anxious and broke. And I couldn't see the light. And because of the mindset work, in the actual most challenging moments of my life, all I was able to see was that light. I invite you to start looking for the light. Find someone who sparks that light in you. We wouldn't know light if we didn't know darkness. There's so many things in the journey that still trigger me, that still, I get emotional thinking about, especially the earlier days. And when I look back on those memories, they bring me such peace, because I'm able to see how far we truly have come and how far my son has come in a relatively short period of time. And it's a reminder that so much can change in a short period of time when we choose. So that's the journey that I am choosing to share with you today. I'm sure more and more of it will unfold as I hope you follow me on this podcast. I have shared much of our journey on my Instagram. You can actually, if you go to at the Kayleigh Kennedy, I have a highlight reel called Ethan's Warriors, where I've shared many parts of his journey and continue to raise awareness. And I know I won't stop sharing this journey, because this journey is a reminder of the power that we have within us. So thank you for listening today. I look forward to sharing more mindset tips on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to Living Your Limitless Life. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It would mean the world to me. Plus, it helps more people find my show, and we can create a bigger impact together. Until next time, keep dreaming big, taking bold action, and remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. See you next time.